Just the facts, ma'am.
Welcome to our third segment of Saving America. This is what we call Just the Facts, and we've got a great guest with us today. Stephanie Kaplan has worked in corporate human resources for over 25 years. She's worked with a lot of big companies, and she has observed some real difficult trends in our society, in our corporate existence. And she has created a site called Corporate Wokeness. Welcome, Stephanie. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, David.
And tell us a little bit about what's happened, what drove you to create this particular website. And by the way, I've been to the website, looks great.
Thank you so much. So I've been working in corporate human resources for about 25 years, and I've noticed this increasing trend toward political correctness, or wokeness as it's more well known today. And I've also noticed kind of a breakdown of unity in some of these companies where people are, getting in their different tribes, and it doesn't seem positive to me. And I started noticing it when I worked at Starbucks in their human resources department many years ago, and they started the employee resource group. So we had the Black group and the gay and lesbian group and the Hispanic group, and I didn't see it really help people feel connected to the company. Instead, what I saw, at least from the HR perspective, were, different groups kind of jockeying for a position, trying to get dollars for their different activities and get executive attention for their initiatives. And it seemed very divisive to me. But what led me to start the site was my employer, right after George Floyd was killed. It was probably within a couple of weeks. At that time, all the companies felt like they needed to comment on systemic racism in America and the killing of George Floyd and all the different things. And I was kind of, I guess, just getting to a breaking point. I had, my pizza place down the street emailing me about systemic racism. I had the company that I bought bras from online commenting to me about what they were doing about systemic racism. And I was really trying to just let this pass, not let it bother me too much or get under my skin. And then my own employer asked the employees to donate to Black Lives Matter. And they made a donation to Black Lives Matter on behalf of all the employees. And that kind of sent me down a rabbit hole of, this has really just gone too far. I know what Black Lives Matter is about. It's a Marxist organization that, is not supportive of the nuclear family and has promoted a lot of violence. And I haven't really seen them do much good. So it was very offensive to me. And I thought, I have to do something. So I started a website to highlight the insanity that occurs in corporate America. And every once in a while, I get a story where a company has stood up to this and done it right. But unfortunately, at least at this current juncture, more of the stories are about companies that are doing things that I think are just go too far and really cross the line in terms of imposing their woke values on not only their employees, but also their customers.
Well, even though you're a white female, how do you view the issue of discrimination in America, especially with regard to the workplace?
Well, I think I'm sure there is discrimination. I have seen it on occasion as an HR professional. I think it is the exception rather than the rule. We also have, a number of laws on the books currently that are designed to prevent that. So if someone feels like they've been wronged under a discrimination statute, they do have a legal remedy. But again, I haven't seen that come up a lot. Instead, what I see are companies, bending over backwards to focus on promoting and hiring diverse folks, in some cases, that don't even meet the minimum qualifications of the particular job. I recently had a woman reach out to me who's an HR recruiter for a small East Coast university, and she said that she's been told you may only hire diverse candidates for certain roles, which to me is reverse discrimination. Why is that okay? I think there's nothing wrong with, trying to be fair and have opportunities open to everybody. And if you want to do some outreach in minority communities because you feel like you're underrepresented, I think that's okay also, but not to the extent where you're discriminating against other folks, because that doesn't help us in the end. It really should be about the best employee, regardless of skin color, religion, where they were born, what their sexual orientation is. That's where I think we need to be. And I think we're not there. We've gone the other way.
Now, just quickly, on the recruiter that contacted you, did she tell you what was her definition of diverse recruiting? What did that mean? Did it mean exclusively Black candidates, Black and brown? What was she, did she give you a little bit of infill?
Well, she happens to be Hispanic herself. She mentioned that. We didn't do a Zoom call. We just talked on the phone. So I didn't meet her and via video. But so she mentioned she was Hispanic. She said that it was basically implied Black and brown. Asians didn't count, and any other race or religion didn't count. It was basically Black or brown, which I think the emphasis was really on Black, because again, we're sort of dealing with this Black racial issue in America because of George Floyd. So she got the impression it was Black. And she's also seen instances where if there's an internal opening, and there's a Black candidate that applies, that doesn't have to go through the same bureaucratic hoops as some of the other positions. She said it used to be that certain steps would have to be followed, and it would take 2 to 3 months to fill some of these roles. But when it's a Black candidate, they found a way to fast track it. When it's not a Black candidate, and especially if it's a white candidate, the bureaucratic process takes longer and is sometimes slow walked because of it, while they continue to try to find a better, more racially diverse candidate.
Boy, that sure sounds like systemic racism to me.
It does to me too, and it does to her. And she's kind of fed up. She's worked in HR and education for 20 years or so, and she says she's ready to get out. And I said, well, it's a little better in corporate America, not much, but a little better.
Yeah, well, things have changed quite a bit. Tell us how corporate workplace helps the situation at present. I've been to the website again. I think it's a cool website, but tell us a little bit behind the website.
Well, I think it helps to shine the light, right? There's certain people who kind of follow these stories. I'm one of those. They stand out to me probably because of my HR background and my passion for fighting wokeness in corporate America, which is what led me to start the site in the first place. But beyond that, I think people need to know what's going on. And I think people who are against some of this political correctness or wokeness in general, they know a few things that are going on, but they don't know, for example, all of the damage that Nike is doing to America in so many different ways. And some of these other, huge mega corporations like Amazon and things like that, where they're not promoting American values at all. They're selling us out to China. They're focusing on globalism. They're killing small business. There's all these things that are occurring that I just don't think people know about. The other thing that I try to do with the website is help people understand what they can do, because it's one thing to get people kind of riled up about it, right? I mean, that's important because it's emotion and passion and knowledge that helps things be different sometimes. But I also try to leave my readers with something to do. So sometimes that's through my mailing list, which people can sign up for on my site. I send out different ideas. One of the things that I'm particularly focused on right now is helping make it easier to buy American products in general. Companies that make and manufacture their goods in America are not as woke. There are a few exceptions, but in general, they're focused on, the American economy and American jobs and their employees and producing a product. So I've put together a list that I think is easier for people to be able to sort through and find things. It's organized by category, and people can get more information by signing up for my mailing list. But I'm getting ready to launch that in the next couple of weeks to help people, because people that don't like what Nike's doing, they don't like what Amazon's doing, they don't like what Target is doing, want other options. And so I'm trying to give them those other options.
Well, that's great. And it's interesting to me because my legal background has been defending businesses with regard to employment discrimination issues. And I have encountered significant documented cases, and the approach is usually very straightforward from my end. Is you fix the problem, you straighten it out, you fire the manager if you've got somebody who's off the grid. But like you, most of the time, the cases are either a misunderstanding or simply not legitimate. And we've been through, a big, curve. There are certain things like the sexual harassment was a huge deal. And yet a lot of despite what you see in the news and big settlements by people like Bill Clinton, the reality is that there really haven't been a lot of massive corporate sexual harassment cases. There really haven't been very many significant racial harassment cases that have actually been documented, gone through the courts. There certainly are exceptions, but given the hundreds of thousands of businesses in the United States, not that many cases, and so it is kind of interesting. And I'm concerned as somebody who is over 50, and I've experienced significant age discrimination, and in terms of real discrimination cases that could be filed with the EEOC, my observation is that you can take every other form of discrimination under Title VII, put them together, and age discrimination outnumbers them 2 to 1. Everything else combined is half of what people over 50 are experiencing in the American workplace. And yet it's not something that people are talking about this week, but maybe they will next week. And I think the one thing you mentioned I thought was interesting is about this diversity targeting excludes not just white Americans, but also Asian Americans. And that may this week be an especially interesting area, given the fact that over the last year, there's been a very sharp increase in cases. So
Yes.
there is, in other words, we may be looking at not just that wokeness is some type of kind of silly project, but that it could be causing serious social problems in our society.
I agree. And, the solution that the woke crowd has come up with, which is critical race theory and, inherent bias training or unconscious bias training, and some of these diversity programs that, separate people based on their race, white people in this conference room over here or this Zoom meeting, and, minorities over in this meeting over here. That's only going to make it worse. And asking people to apologize for their white privilege, which is what some of these training sessions are doing. Coca-Cola had that. It came out just recently. Not sure if you heard about that, but some of the slides from their training session got leaked by a whistleblower. So an employee at home taking their Zoom meeting took pictures of the slides, got on the internet. Donald Trump Jr. and some other, big social media influencers retweeted it. And the slide specifically, was telling people how to be less white.
Yeah, well, I think the important thing is that we should all honor our own respective cultures from which we came from,
Yes.
But to focus on the American experience. And you remember we used to talk about the American melting pot. And I am concerned, like you are, that we're creating separate camps. And frankly, I relate it back to, I've seen a very steady increase in this since the Obama administration really divided America in a very sad and negative way. And, it seems to be violating the melting pot concept. And in my book, A Decline of America, one of the things I talk about late in the book, and I try and mention this when I do have the opportunity, because of the common misconception that if you're a conservative, you're opposed to diversity. And I say diversity is one of the magic features that made America the incredible success that it is, because I don't know of another country on earth that has a population like the United States, where we have so many different people. But we need to celebrate that, and we need to pull together, not apart.
Yes, I agree. My great grandparents were immigrants, and I'm sure, most Americans had some relative come over from somewhere. There's not too many Native Americans, where their entire lineage was born here. So we all came from somewhere, but we all came respecting the promise of America and the freedoms and the liberties that we have. And I think when we teach people to just hate each other based on, their skin color or their religion or their sexual orientation or their gender or whatever, that doesn't help us. And that was the purpose of the melting pot, as well as Martin Luther King. That's what he spoke about.
Absolutely, is give everybody a chance to come to the same workplace and work. Stephanie, we try and be respectful of everybody's time. We are so appreciative of your joining us, and best of luck to corporatewokeplace.com. And we hope you join us again in the future.